In today's 23-24 single season rebuild, we're going to be heading to Greece. We're going to be taking charge of Panathinaikos, who are one of the biggest teams in Greece, as we look to push them on to the next level and see how far we can advance them in just a single season. Let's start off by having a look at how the game has them lining up and what their assistant manager thinks is their current best 11. They play in a 4-3-3 system, with a back four being protected by a holder and two wide men that will feed the ball to the striker. Looking at some of their key players, Magnussen is a tall, strong defender. Ruben Perez is a Spanish holding midfielder, and despite being 35 years old, he has retained his ability. Zeka is another of the ageing midfielders, although he has recently returned to the club after a stint in Denmark. Filip Juricic is a tricky wide player and another recent arrival at the club. We start the season off with $565,000 in the bank and are pretty much to our limit in the wage budget. This means we're probably going to have to sell to buy. Looking at the club vision shows you the board want to grow the club's reputation while signing under 23s for the first team, and they want us to be competitive in Europe and finish in the top two in the league. With a clear picture of everything going on at the club, let's push into the first transfer window as we look to build the team for the first half of the season. The first player that we allowed to leave the club is Benjamin Verbic. The 30-year-old Slovenian goes to Italy, where he joined Spezia. Next up, Fotis Ioannidis was allowed to leave, and he headed over to Denmark to sign for Midtjylland. And finally, Filip Miladenovic, he leaves us, he goes to join Randers. So with those sales complete, it means we now have 3.7 million to try and go and strengthen the squad. And the first signing that we make is Pedro Raul. He's a 27-year-old Brazilian striker who joins the club from Vasco da Gama. Jonathan Robert is another Brazilian signing. He can play anywhere as an attacking midfielder or even as a striker. And the third Brazilian to join the club was Lucas Ramos. The 23-year-old joins us from Internacional. The final two signings were made with beefing up the defence in mind. Nat Phillips joins us from Liverpool, and then Argentinian Lisandro Magallan, he comes to us from Ajax. So with our transfer business in the summer window now complete, we have about 488,000 left to carry over to January. Here is a rough idea of how the new signings will fit in and how we could line up at the start of the season. So with the summer transfer window now shut and our business complete, let's push on to the first half of the season as we find out everything that has happened in the run-up to January the 1st. We kicked the season off playing a lot of Conference League qualifying games. First we beat Vaduz 8-3 on aggregate before playing Dinamo Zagreb, and we knocked them out 6-3 on aggregate. Our reward for that was a game against NEC, and we beat them 6-2 over 2 legs. We finally kicked off our league season in style with an 8-0 win over Panathinaikos, a 6-2 victory over Kalamata, before a 3-3 draw against OFI. We tasted defeat for the first time against bitter rivals Olympiacos, before winning in style 7-1 when we went to Germany to face off against Freiburg. We then hit a purple patch as we won 4-1 against Volos, 3-1 against Atromitos, 4-0 against Kifisia in the Greek Cup, before a 3-0 defeat knocked us off our stride in the league. We bounced back though, winning 5-1 against Kalamata, before the run-up to January was complete with a 1-1 draw against Kifisia to get the job done over 2 legs in the Greek Cup. After the first half of the season, it means that we are sitting in second place, just 1 point behind arch rivals Olympiacos in the league. We made it through to the knockout playoff round in the Europa Conference League, and we're in the quarterfinals of the Greek Cup. If we look at the league table in a bit more detail, you can see that we have played 15, won 12, drew 1 and lost 2. We have a goal difference of 35 and 37 points to be just 1 off Olympiacos. In the Europa League we played 6, won 4, drew 1 and lost 1. And we qualified from the group in second place behind Roma with 13 points. Looking at the finances for the January transfer window, we have about 525,000 available to us to spend. The board at this point have given us a B-, and they're mainly upset that we drew with Motherwell and lost to PAS. Before the January window, let's check in on our summer signings. Up first is Lisandro Magallan, who has made 12 appearances and chipped in with 3 goals. Up next is Nat Phillips, who has become a rock at the back. He's appeared in 24 games, scoring an impressive 13 goals. Lucas Ramos has functioned as a rotation option, but still has 9 appearances and 1 assist to his name. Jonathan Robert has been flying, literally. Operating as a left winger, he's played 17 games, scored 11 goals and provided an impressive 16 assists. And Pedro Raul is now our first choice striker and he's tearing up the Greek league. The Brazilian has 29 goals and 6 assists from his 27 games. With the first half of the season now complete, let's head into the January transfer window and see if we can add any reinforcements to help us for the second half of the season. The first player to leave in January sadly was Zeka. He was unhappy, so we decided to allow him to leave to go to Levante. The other player to leave was backup goalkeeper Alberto Brignoli. He went back to Italy and he joined Empoli. So with those two leaving, it meant that we needed some new arrivals and we signed 2 players. The first of which was Stanis Pedrola, the former Barcelona youth player, can play in a number of positions. And joining him is Hugo Novoa, another young Spaniard with a lot of potential ability who should provide us with a creative spark at the top end of the pitch. On the 31st of January, we now sit top of the Greek Super League, leapfrogging Olympiakos and opening up a 4-point gap at the top of the table. With the winter transfer window now shut and all of our business complete, let's see how we performed in the second half of the season. We kicked off the second half of the season with an impressive 4-0 win over AEK before a big crunch game against Olympiakos brought a 3-3 draw in the Greek Cup semi-final first leg. Disappointingly, we would exit the Conference League at the first knockout round. We lost to Betis 3-1 over 2 legs. We got over that disappointment though by smashing Olympiakos 5-1 and we beat them 8-4 on aggregate to reach the Greek Cup final. Back in the league, we were now in the Championship group and we were hitting top form by beating Olympiakos 4-2, PAOK 5-1, AEK 4-2, before we were brought back down to earth as we lost 4-2 to Olympiakos. That though proved just to be a blip as we finished the season strong. We beat AEK 4-1 and PAS 2-0 to round off our league campaign. So after battling through the season and the Championship group, we end up winning the Greek Super League and returning Panathinaikos to the top of Greek football. We also end up winning a domestic double. We finished the Championship group 20 points clear with a record of 36 played, 30 wins, 3 draws and 3 losses, scoring 127 goals and collecting an impressive 93 points. The board gave us an A- to finish off the season, with their only concern being a loss to Olympiakos. Finally, let's run through the new signings and see how they have impacted the season. Let's start off with Alessandro Magellan. The big Argentine will play in 30 games and contribute 7 goals and 2 assists. Nat Phillips was one of our best signings, turning into a goal machine. He somehow scored 29 goals from 44 games, with 22 of those coming in the league. Lucas Ramos played as a rotation option. He was always reliable when he was called upon. Jonathan Robert was our hidden gem. The Brazilian scored 17 in 28 games with 27 assists. He nearly averaged an assist every single game. Pedro Raul was loving life in the Greek leagues, tearing it up. He scored 42 goals in 51 games and also registered 11 assists. Stanis Pedrola was a late arrival but had a huge impact. The Spaniard managed to score 12 goals in just 13 starts. And finally, Hugo Novoa, he settled in well. He played in 15 games, scored 10 goals and had 2 assists. So what a fantastic club to spend a season rebuilding. We've had a great time bringing success to Panathinaikos as we have won the domestic double. So our single season in charge of Panathinaikos has come to an end and we end the season with a domestic double. Yes, we have won the Greek Super League and we have won the Greek Cup. Right then, if you're still with me at this point of the video, firstly a big thank you. Secondly, if you don't mind hitting that like and subscribe button to help the channel out, I would be ever so grateful. I cannot thank you all enough for coming to the channel and supporting the channel. All of the interactions that every single person has here on the channel really does help it to grow, and I cannot thank you all enough for doing that. Before you do go, don't forget to check out the rest of the channel where we have other videos. There are tactics, there are wonder kids, there are let's plays, hints, tips, tutorials, a little bit of something for everybody right here on the channel. But for this one, I'm going to leave it there. Big thank you for watching. I'll see you on another video very soon.